Saturday night was supposed to be a celebration. For the first time in years, President Donald Trump had agreed to attend the Whitehouse Correspondents Association dinner, one of Washington's most high-profile annual events, bringing together hundreds of media figures, government officials, corporate executives, and senior members of the administration under one roof. The program had barely started. Then shots rang out near one of the ballroom entrances of the Washington Hilton, and within seconds, the entire event transformed into a massive crime scene. Trump was evacuated. Cabinet members dove under tables. Secret Service agents crossed the ballroom with firearms drawn, and a suspect armed with a shotgun, a handgun, and multiple knives was taken into custody. Here is a full breakdown of what happened, how the security apparatus responded, and the serious questions this incident raises about protecting the highest levels of the U.S. government.
The White House Correspondents' Dinner is one of the most security-intensive civilian events on the Washington calendar. Guests enter through magnetometers. Printed invitations are required to reach the security checkpoint. The Secret Service coordinates with local law enforcement to establish multiple perimeters around the venue. Despite all of that, Saturday night's event was barely underway when the situation changed rapidly. According to Amalia Cepero, a bartender present at the event, the suspect walked calmly up to the checkpoint, dropped his jacket, and opened fire. After shooting, she said, he charged directly toward the metal detectors. Trump, who was inside the ballroom at the time, told reporters afterward that he initially thought the sound might have been a tray dropping. It quickly became clear that something far more serious was happening. Secret Service agents moved immediately. FDA Commissioner Marty McCarry, who was in attendance, compared the response to the protection operation in Butler, Pennsylvania in 2024, where Trump survived an assassination attempt. They shielded him and escorted him out, McCarry said. Trump was evacuated from the venue. A Secret Service officer was struck, hit in the protective vest, and was reported by the president to be doing well. The suspect was taken into custody. Washington's interim police chief Jeffrey Carroll confirmed the individual was a lone gunman with no apparent accomplices, and that the suspect was not struck by gunfire during the incident.
This is where the full weight of Saturday night becomes clear. When the shooting occurred, the Washington Hilton was not just hosting a press dinner. Inside that ballroom were some of the most senior figures in the U.S. government, many of them in the direct line of presidential succession. Present at the event were President Trump, Vice President J.D. Vance, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, Energy Secretary Chris Wright, and Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy, Jr. For several minutes after the shooting began, there was no general communication to the hundreds of people inside the ballroom. Senior officials, including cabinet members, had no clear information about the status of the president or the precise nature of the threat. Agents could be heard crossing the hall calling out to confirm the safety of specific officials. One agent was recorded asking, "Ambassador Greer, are you okay?" referring to U.S. Trade Representative Jameson Greer, who confirmed he was unharmed. Several cabinet members, including Bessent, remained in the room well after Trump's evacuation before being escorted out by agents. The concentration of senior leadership in a single publicly announced location and the communication gap that followed the shooting raises serious questions about event security protocols at the highest level of government. Federal and local law enforcement officials confirmed that the suspect was in custody by late Saturday night. Washington's interim police chief described the individual as a lone gunman who charged the security checkpoint with a firearm in hand. In addition to the handgun he fired, the suspect was found to be carrying a shotgun and multiple knives. U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, Jeanine Pirro, announced at a separate briefing that the suspect would face charges of assaulting a federal officer using a dangerous weapon and using a firearm during a crime of violence. An arraignment was set for Monday. Pirro did not rule out additional terrorism charges as the investigation develops, stating that the individual was intent on doing as much harm and as much damage as he could. Trump posted 2 images of the suspect on his social media account. The police chief declined to immediately release the individual's name at the briefing.
Beyond the immediate incident, Saturday night exposes several vulnerabilities that security analysts and government officials will be examining closely in the days ahead. The first is the question of perimeter integrity. Guests were required to pass through magnetometers and display printed invitations to reach the security checkpoint. However, at least one guest who was staying at the hotel confirmed to reporters that they were able to bypass the security screening entirely. That is a significant gap, and it occurred at an event attended by the President of the United States and a substantial portion of his cabinet. The second is the communication failure inside the ballroom. For several minutes following the shooting, hundreds of guests, including senior government officials, had no information about what was happening or where the threat was located. In a scenario where there are multiple assailants, that window of uncertainty is critical. Saturday night, it turned out to be a lone gunman, but the response protocol for communicating with people inside the venue clearly needs review. The third question is about the concentration of leadership. Having the president, vice president, and multiple cabinet members, several of whom are in the line of succession, at a single publicly advertised event creates a target profile that is difficult to fully secure. The time, location, and guest list for the Correspondents' dinner were widely covered in advance. That level of public visibility, combined with the security gaps that emerged Saturday night, is a combination that will require serious review. At the White House press conference late Saturday night, Trump struck a measured tone. He praised the law enforcement response, confirmed the Secret Service officer who was hit is recovering well, and promised to reschedule the dinner. He was direct about his view of the situation. "I don't like to let these sick people, these horrible people, change the fabric of our life." Trump had initially wanted to resume the event the same night. When it became clear that was not possible given the scale of the crime scene, the Correspondents Association formally canceled the remainder of the evening. The investigation is ongoing. Terrorism charges remain on the table, and a full security review of the incident is expected to follow. For an administration that has already dealt with one assassination attempt on the campaign trail in 2024, Saturday night is a stark reminder that the security environment around the U.S. presidency remains a serious and active challenge, regardless of venue, regardless of preparation, and regardless of how many layers of protection are in place. The suspect is in custody, the president is safe, but the questions Saturday night raised are not going away.